Petals in the dust. The early morning sun had barely risen over the horizon when Prisha Verma arrived at the sprawling gardens of the Ivory Crown Hotel. At 26, she carried herself with quiet dignity, despite the worn edges of her simple cotton kurta and the calluses on her hands. The garden was her sanctuary, the only place where she felt truly seen, even if it was only by the silent companions of jasmine, marigolds, and hibiscus that thrived under her care. "There she is, the plant whisperer," came a snide voice from behind her. Prisha didn't need to turn to know it was Tanvi, one of the reception staff speaking to a new employee. "Don't mind her shabby clothes. The Malhotras keep her around because no one else can make the gardens look this good. Just don't expect much conversation. She's as dull as the dirt she plays with." Prisha's fingers stilled momentarily on the rose she was pruning, before continuing their work with practiced precision. After 3 years of working at Mumbai's most prestigious hotel, she had grown accustomed to such comments. The staff viewed her as an oddity, a village girl with no fashion sense, no smartphone, and no desire to climb the social ladder that everyone else scrambled upon. "Ms. Verma," called Mr. Sharma, the hotel manager, approaching with his perpetually furrowed brow. "The Malhotras are hosting a charity gala tomorrow evening. Mrs. Malhotra specifically requested fresh flower arrangements for 20 tables. Can you manage that?" "Yes, sir," Prisha replied softly. "I'll use the pink roses that just bloomed with jasmine and silver fern. They'll complement the ballroom's gold accents." Mr. Sharma raised an eyebrow, surprised as always by her artistic insight despite her humble background. "Very well. Just ensure you remain invisible during the event. The last time, one of the guests mistook you for a waitress." "It was my fault," Prisha acknowledged, though it hadn't been. She had been replacing a wilted arrangement when a guest demanded champagne from her. When she'd politely explained she wasn't serving, the woman had complained loudly about incompetent staff. As Mr. Sharma walked away, Prisha returned to her roses, her mind already composing the arrangements she would create. This was her art, breathing life and beauty into spaces where wealth often drained both. What did it matter if no one saw her? They saw her work, even if they didn't know it was hers. Later that afternoon, as she carefully harvested blooms for the gala, Prisha overheard the excited chatter of housekeeping staff passing by. "He's coming back tomorrow, Vikram Malhotra himself," said one. "I heard he's even more handsome now after those years in London," replied another. "And still unmarried. My cousin works for the Singhania family, and she says they're pushing their daughter as a match." "As if he'd look at any of us," lamented the first with a giggle. "But a girl can dream, can't she?" Prisha smiled to herself. The prodigal son's return meant nothing to her world of soil and seeds. The wealthy existed in a different universe that occasionally intersected with hers, only when they needed something beautiful to admire. That evening, as darkness fell and the garden lights illuminated the pathways, Prisha sat alone on a stone bench hidden behind the bougainvillea arbor. Here, away from judging eyes, she pulled out her most treasured possession, a worn notebook filled with botanical sketches and garden designs, far more ambitious than anything she'd been allowed to create at the hotel. "Someday," she whispered to herself, tracing a finger over her drawing of a healing garden designed for children's hospitals. "Someday my gardens will be more than just pretty backgrounds for the wealthy." Little did she know that someday was arriving on tomorrow's flight from London, in the form of a man who would see far more than just her petals in the dust. Thorns and whispers. The hotel lobby buzzed with nervous energy as staff scurried about, polishing every surface to mirror-like perfection. Prisha observed the commotion from the garden terrace while arranging the last of her flower centerpieces, elegant compositions of roses, jasmine, and ferns that seemed to dance in the gentle breeze. "He's here!" someone hissed, and the staff instantly formed a reception line. Vikram Malhotra strode through the entrance with the casual confidence of someone who had never questioned his place in the world. At 32, he carried himself with an understated elegance that made his designer suit seem almost incidental. His features were sharp but softened by eyes that missed nothing. Not the nervous smile of the receptionist, not the overzealous bow of the manager, and certainly not the woman quietly slipping away through the terrace doors with soil-stained hands. "Welcome home, sir," Mr. Sharma gushed. "We've prepared everything for the gala tonight. Your parents are expecting you in the penthouse." Vikram nodded, his attention already drifting toward the terrace. "The gardens look different," he remarked. Mr. Sharma beamed. "Yes, sir. We've implemented the new landscaping designs from—" "No," Vikram interrupted. "These aren't from Chambers and Associates. Their work is technically perfect but soulless. This has character." He gestured toward an arrangement on a nearby table. "And these flowers, they're from our grounds. I don't remember our gardens producing anything this exquisite." "Ah, that would be Prisha's work, sir. She's our gardener. Been with us for 3 years now." "Prisha," Vikram repeated as if testing the name. "I'd like to meet her." Mr. Sharma's smile faltered. "Perhaps after the gala? She's rather rustic. Not really the sort to present to the family." Vikram's expression cooled several degrees. "I wasn't aware we had staff we were ashamed to introduce, Sharma." "No, sir. Of course not. I only meant, have her attend the garden walk-through tomorrow morning." With that, Vikram moved toward the elevators, leaving the manager flustered in his wake. The gala that evening was a glittering success, with Mumbai's elite gathering to support a foundation that few of them could name, but all were eager to be seen supporting. Amid the champagne and chandeliers, Vikram found himself inexplicably drawn to the flower arrangements. Each one was different, subtly responding to its placement in the room, the light it received, the mood of its corner. It was artistic in a way that the calculated luxury around him was not. "Admiring the flowers?" his mother asked, appearing at his side in a rustle of silk and diamonds. Divya Malhotra was a formidable woman, whose philanthropy was as strategic as her business decisions. "They have soul," Vikram replied simply. "Always the romantic," she sighed. "I hope you've outgrown that in London. The Singhania girl is here tonight. Her father's shipping business would fold neatly into our portfolio." Vikram gave a non-committal hum. "I haven't returned to pick up where I left off, Mother. The European expansion needs my attention for at least a year." "You can oversee Europe with a wife just as easily as without one," she countered smoothly. As the evening progressed, Vikram played his part, charming investors, greeting old friends, and even dancing with Zara Singhania, whose practiced laugh and calculated touches spoke volumes about her intentions. Yet, he found himself distracted, noticing a slender figure occasionally slipping in to refresh wilting arrangements or adjust a centerpiece that had been moved. It was well past midnight when the gala concluded. As guests departed and staff began clearing the debris of celebration, Vikram wandered onto the moonlit terrace. There, kneeling beside a planter, was the same woman he had glimpsed earlier, now gently tending to orchids that had suffered from the evening's heat. "They look happier already," he said, approaching quietly. Prisha startled, nearly dropping her watering can as she scrambled to her feet. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't think anyone was still here." "Don't apologize for caring for something," Vikram replied, studying her face in the soft garden lights. There was an unaffected grace about her that seemed almost foreign in his world of calculated appearances. "You're Prisha, the gardener?" "Yes, sir." Her eyes met his briefly before dropping. Back to the orchids. She didn't simper or flirt or try to impress him, a refreshing contrast to his entire evening. "Your arrangements tonight were extraordinary. Everyone commented on them." A genuine smile flickered across her face before she contained it. "Thank you, sir. Plants speak their own language if you listen." "And what were these saying?" he asked, gesturing to the orchids. "That they were overwhelmed," she answered honestly. "Too many perfumes, too much heat, too many people forgetting their living things." Vikram laughed, a real laugh, not the polished chuckle he had deployed all evening. "I think I know exactly how they feel." He extended his hand. "Vikram Malhotra, though I suppose you already know that." Prisha hesitated before briefly touching his hand with her work-roughened one. "Prisha Verma, and yes, everyone knows who you are." From the shadows of the ballroom, Tanvi watched the interaction with narrowed eyes, already composing the gossip she would spread in the morning. The plain gardener girl speaking with the heir himself? This would not stand unchallenged. Neither Prisha nor Vikram noticed her, however. For that moment they existed in a small bubble of authenticity. Two people who, for very different reasons, understood what it meant to be valued only for what they could provide, rather than who they were. "I'll see you at the garden walkthrough, tomorrow," Vikram said finally. "I'd like to hear more about how you've transformed our grounds." As he walked away, Prisha remained still, wondering if she had imagined the entire exchange. The thorns of reality would come soon enough, she knew. But for now, in the quiet of the garden, something unfamiliar had taken root, a dangerous, fragile thing called hope. Blossoms of change. The morning sun cast long shadows across the hotel gardens as Prisha nervously adjusted her cleanest kurta. She had arrived an hour early to ensure everything was perfect for the walkthrough, checking each bed and path with meticulous care. When footsteps approached, she straightened, expecting Mr. Sharma with his clipboard of criticisms. Instead, Vikram Malhotra appeared alone, dressed in casual linen that somehow looked more expensive than most formal wear. "You're early," he observed with a smile. "So are you, sir," she replied, then bit her lip at her boldness. "Jet lag," he explained, surveying the gardens with appreciative eyes. "And I wanted to see this place without the management committee filtering my experience." He gestured toward the path. "Show me your world, Prisha." For the next hour they walked the grounds together. What began as hesitant explanations from Prisha gradually transformed into passionate descriptions of her work. She showed him how she'd rehabilitated struggling areas with native plants, created microclimates for delicate species, and designed sustainable irrigation systems that reduced water usage by 40%. This section wasn't in the original plans, Vikram noted, stopping before a small but vibrant garden tucked behind the spa building. Prisha's cheeks colored slightly. "It wasn't approved. I used cuttings and seeds from the main gardens. The kitchen staff complained there was nowhere peaceful for their breaks, so instead of reprimanding her, Vikram knelt to examine a cluster of medicinal herbs. "You created this on your own initiative?" "I'm sorry if it overstepped." "It's brilliant," he interrupted. "The entire property feels alive under your care." His eyes met hers with genuine respect. "Where did you learn all this?" "My grandmother was an Ayurvedic healer in our village," she explained. "She taught me plant properties before I could write, the formal techniques I learned at agricultural college before." She trailed off, unwilling to share the family tragedy that had cut her education short. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Sharma and the hotel's executive team, whose expressions ranged from surprise to thinly veiled disapproval at finding Vikram and Prisha alone together. "Sir, we didn't expect you so early," Mr. Sharma said, throwing a warning glance at Prisha. "Fortunately, Ms. Verma was kind enough to give me a comprehensive tour," Vikram replied coolly. "I've made a decision about the West expansion." The executive straightened attentively. "We're scrapping the imported design. Prisha will create a sustainable native garden that showcases regional flora. Budget can be redirected from the marble fountains to living installations." A stunned silence followed. "But sir," protested the financial controller. "Ms. Verma is just a maintenance gardener. She doesn't have the credentials to—" "She has something better than credentials," Vikram cut in. "Results. Look around you. While we've been importing foreign concepts, the most authentic experience on our property has been growing right under our noses." He turned to Prisha. "Would you be willing to lead this project?" "It would mean a promotion, of course." Prisha's heart raced. This was everything she had dreamed of. A chance to create something meaningful, to prove her vision had value. "Yes," she said simply. "I would be honored." The news spread through the hotel like wildfire. By lunchtime, Prisha found herself the center of unwanted attention. As she collected seeds from the herb garden, she overheard Tanvi speaking loudly to a cluster of housekeeping staff. "It's obvious what's happening," Tanvi said with a sneer. "The village girl has found her ticket up. I wonder what exactly she showed Vikram Malhotra on their private tour this morning. Prisha's hands trembled, but she continued her work, pretending not to hear the cruel laughter that followed. That afternoon, as she sketched preliminary designs in her worn notebook, Vikram appeared at the garden shed doorway. "My mother has requested I join a luncheon tomorrow with the Singanayas," he said without preamble. "I told her I have a prior commitment with you to visit the botanical gardens for research. Do you mind being my excuse?" Prisha looked up in surprise. "Won't that cause problems?" "Undoubtedly," he grinned. "But I've endured enough matchmaking to last a lifetime. Besides, we actually should visit the botanical gardens. Your project will need inspiration. People are already talking," she warned softly, "about why you would choose someone like me for this project." Vikram's expression darkened. "Someone like you?" "A nobody. A village girl with dirt under her nails." He stepped closer, his voice low and intense. "Do you know what I see when I look at you, Prisha? Someone authentic in a world of facades. Someone who creates beauty without demanding recognition. Someone who understands that true luxury isn't imported marble. It's harmony with what's already here." He picked up her notebook. "May I?" She nodded, and he flipped through pages of detailed garden designs, botanical illustrations, and innovative irrigation systems. "This is genius," he murmured. "You're not a nobody. You're exactly who we need." The following days brought dramatic changes. Prisha was given an office, a small room overlooking the gardens, and introduced to the design team as project lead. The staff's reaction was immediate and polarizing. Some, like the kitchen workers, whose break garden she had created, offered genuine congratulations. Others, led by Tanvi and several executives, watched with cold calculation. One evening, as Prisha worked late on her designs, a shadow fell across her desk. She looked up to find Divya Malhotra standing in the doorway, elegant and imposing in her silk sari. "So you're the gardener who has captivated my son," she said, her voice neutral but her eyes sharp with assessment. Prisha stood quickly. "Mrs. Malhotra, my son tells me you have vision," Divya continued, moving to examine the designs spread across the desk. "That you understand something about harmony that our expensive consultants do not." "I only work with what the land offers," Prisha replied carefully. Divya studied her for a long moment. "The Singhania family is very disappointed. They had expectations." "I'm only designing a garden, ma'am." A thin smile curved Divya's lips. "We both know it's more than that." She trailed her fingers across Prisha's sketches. "Beautiful work. But remember, Ms. Verma, in our world, winter always follows spring. Flowers bloom and then they fade." With that cryptic warning, she glided from the room. Prisha sank back into her chair, her heart pounding. The blossoms of change were opening around her, but with them came the shadows of thorns she had yet to face, and the growing fear that whatever was blooming between her and Vikram might be far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Seeds of truth. A month into the garden project, Mumbai's monsoon season arrived with dramatic intensity. Rain lashed against windows, flooded streets, and transformed the carefully cultivated hotel grounds into vulnerable terrain. While other staff huddled indoors, Prisha moved through the downpour with tarpaulins and temporary drainage solutions, fighting to protect young plants and prevent erosion. "You'll catch your death out here," came Vikram's voice as he appeared beside her, equally drenched despite his expensive raincoat. "The western slope is vulnerable," she explained, pushing sodden hair from her face. "If it collapses, we lose everything we've planted." Without another word, Vikram rolled up his sleeves and began helping her secure barriers and divert water flow. They worked side by side for hours, communication reduced to essential instructions and nods as thunder rolled overhead. Staff members watched from windows, whispering at the sight of the heir to the Malhotra fortune knee-deep in mud beside the gardener. By evening, when the worst of the storm had passed, they had saved most of the new plantings. Exhausted and mud-splattered, they took shelter in the garden shed. "You could have ordered maintenance staff to handle this," Prisha said, handing him a towel. "So could you," he countered. Yet here we both are. Their eyes met in the dim light, and something unspoken passed between them. Recognition of a shared quality that transcended their different worlds. The moment was broken by Mr. Sharma bursting through the door. "Sir, your mother has been trying to reach you. The storm has caused damage to the east wing and there's flooding in the ballroom." "How bad?" Vikram asked, immediately alert. The ceiling gave way. "Water is everywhere, and we have the conference delegates arriving tomorrow." Vikram turned to Prisha. "Will the gardens hold now?" She nodded. "The worst danger has passed." "Then let's deal with this new crisis." The scene in the ballroom was chaotic. Water pouring through a collapsed section of ceiling, staff ineffectually mopping at the spreading pools, and Mrs. Malhotra directing operations with tight-lipped fury. "Vikram, where have you been?" she demanded, then noticed his mud-covered state with dismay. "What on earth?" "Saving the new garden installation," he replied calmly, already assessing the damage. "What happened here?" "The drainage system backed up during the storm," the maintenance manager explained nervously. "We've called contractors, but with citywide flooding, no one can reach us until morning." Prisha, who had followed them in, studied the ceiling thoughtfully. "The problem isn't just the hole," she said quietly to Vikram. "The water is being channeled from the roof garden above. It's following the path of least resistance. Can we redirect it?" he asked. She nodded. "With temporary channels, yes, but we'll need access to the roof first." "You seem to have expertise beyond gardening, Miss Verma," Mrs. Malhotra observed with raised eyebrows. "My father was a civil engineer," Prisha replied, then hesitated before adding, "before the accident." Vikram gave her a curious look but focused on the immediate problem. "Show us what to do." For the next several hours, Prisha directed a team to the roof garden, where they created diversion channels using materials from the maintenance supplies. Her knowledge of water flow, essential for irrigation systems, proved invaluable as she identified the source of the problem and implemented a temporary solution. By midnight, the flooding had stopped and cleanup was underway. The conference could proceed with minimal disruption. "Impressive work," Mrs. Malhotra said, approaching Prisha as staff restored the ballroom. "My son was right about your resourcefulness." "Thank you, ma'am. My husband would like to meet you tomorrow afternoon in the family office." With that, she swept away, leaving Prisha with a knot of apprehension in her stomach. Later, as the crisis subsided, Vikram found Prisha on the terrace, staring out at the rain-washed city lights. "You never mentioned your father was an engineer," he said gently. She remained silent for a long moment before responding. "Some stories are easier not to tell. I'd like to hear yours if you're willing." Prisha took a deep breath. "My father built bridges in rural Maharashtra. My mother was a teacher. I was studying agricultural science at university when their car went off a bridge during a monsoon much like this one." Her voice remained steady, though her hands trembled slightly. "The investigation found structural flaws in the bridge, corners cut by contractors, inspections falsified. But the company responsible had political connections. The case disappeared, along with our compensation." "I'm sorry," Vikram said softly. "I couldn't afford to continue my education. My grandmother was too ill to work, so I took whatever jobs I could find. Eventually, I came here." She turned to face him. "That's why your mother's invitation concerns me. I recognize your family name for more than just this hotel, Vikram." His expression changed. "What do you mean?" "Malhotra Infrastructure was the parent company of the contractors who built that bridge." She watched realization dawn on his face. "I didn't know when I started working here. By the time I made the connection, I needed the job too badly to leave. I never expected to meet any actual Malhotras." Vikram stood frozen. "Are you certain?" "The logo was on all the paperwork we received. The same logo that's on the development plans for your new properties." The weight of this revelation hung between them, reshaping everything. "My father handles the infrastructure division," Vikram said finally. "I've been focused on hospitality and European expansion." "It doesn't matter now," Prisha said, turning away. It was years ago. It matters, he insisted, gently turning her back to face him. And I understand now why my parents suddenly want to meet you. Someone must have made the connection. Will you tell them I told you? He shook his head. No, but I will find out the truth about what happened. The truth won't bring them back, she whispered. But it might bring justice, he replied. And it might explain why the daughter of an engineer and a teacher is working as a gardener instead of finishing her degree. The next morning, the hotel buzzed with stories of how Prisha had saved the conference. Staff who had previously ignored or mocked her now approached with tentative respect. Even Tanvi seemed subdued, her usual barbs absent. As Prisha prepared for her meeting with the Malhotra family, she received an unexpected visitor in her small office. Vikram's father, Rajiv Malhotra, a formidable man whose stern face regularly appeared in business magazines, entered without knocking. Ms. Verma, he said, his voice betraying nothing. I thought we might speak privately before the formal meeting. Prisha stood, her heart pounding. Mr. Malhotra, he studied her with calculating eyes. You've made quite an impression. First on my son, then on my wife, and now on my hotel operations. He placed a folder on her desk. But I wonder if your talents might be better applied elsewhere. She opened the folder to find transfer papers, a position at one of their properties in Singapore with triple her current salary. A talented woman like you deserves opportunities, he continued smoothly. Far from Mumbai, effective immediately. Prisha understood perfectly. This wasn't an opportunity, it was removal. May I ask why? Let's not pretend, Ms. Verma. We both know why you're really here. To design your garden, she replied steadily. A cold smile crossed his face. My investigators are thorough. The daughter of Aditya and Nandini Verma working in a Malhotra property? Too coincidental. He leaned forward. Whatever you're planning, revenge, exposure, manipulation of my son, it ends now. Sign the transfer, take the money and disappear, or I'll ensure you never work in this country again. Prisha felt a strange calm settle over her. I came here for a job, Mr. Malhotra. Nothing more. But now I understand why the universe placed me in your garden. She closed the folder and handed it back. I won't be going to Singapore. His expression hardened. Then you'll be leaving with nothing. Perhaps, she acknowledged. But I won't leave without telling Vikram exactly who suggested I disappear, and why. They stared at each other in tense silence, the seeds of truth finally breaking through to the surface, reaching toward an uncertain light. Roots of tomorrow. The formal meeting never happened. Instead, the Ivory Crown Hotel buzzed with the news that Prisha Verma had resigned, effective immediately. Staff whispered that she had been caught stealing design plans to sell to competitors. Others claimed she had attempted to blackmail the family. By afternoon, her small room had been emptied, her projects reassigned, and her name systematically erased from hotel records. Vikram, returning from business meetings downtown, found his mother waiting in his suite. Where is Prisha? He demanded without preamble. That girl has left our employment, Divya replied carefully. Your father discovered concerning information about her background and intentions. What intentions? Vikram's voice was dangerously quiet. She was using you, Beta. Her parents died in an accident involving one of our subsidiary companies. She infiltrated our organization seeking revenge or compensation. She didn't infiltrate anything, Vikram countered. She applied for a gardening position and worked her way up through sheer talent. Nevertheless, the conflict of interest. Did father offer her money to leave? His mother's silence was answer enough. Vikram grabbed his keys and headed for the door. Where are you going? Divya called after him. To find her. Vikram, you have the Singhania dinner tonight. Your father has arranged. Tell father I'm investigating our company's role in a bridge collapse that killed 2 innocent people, he replied coldly, and whether we tried to buy our way out of responsibility, again. Finding Prisha proved challenging. She had left no forwarding address, and her few friends among the staff claimed ignorance of her plans. After exhausting conventional methods, Vikram recalled a conversation about her grandmother's village. With this thin lead, he drove for hours through monsoon rains to a small farming community outside Pune. The village elders directed him to a modest home on the outskirts, where an elderly woman sat weaving medicinal plants into bundles. Her roomy eyes widened at the sight of the expensive car and the man who emerged from it. "I'm looking for Prisha Verma," Vikram said respectfully. The old woman studied him for a long moment. "You are the hotel man," she stated rather than asked. "Yes, is she here?" "My granddaughter said you might come. She also said I should send you away." "Please," Vikram said, sinking to sit at her level. "I need to speak with her." "Why?" "So your family can threaten her again?" The grandmother's voice held surprising steel. "We have lost enough to the Malhotras." "I had nothing to do with what happened to her parents," Vikram replied earnestly, "or with what my father did to her. I'm trying to make it right." Rain began falling harder, drumming on the tin roof. The old woman sighed deeply. "She is where she always goes when her heart is troubled. Follow the path behind the house to the river. There is a garden there." Vikram thanked her and set off through the downpour. The path wound through dense vegetation until it opened onto a clearing by the riverbank. There, in a protected pocket of land, flourished an extraordinary garden unlike any he had seen, part food forest, part medicinal garden, part wild sanctuary. And in its center, kneeling in the mud despite the rain, was Prisha. She looked up at his approach, unsurprised. "Your father works quickly," she observed, continuing to plant seedlings. "I expected at least a day before the story of my disgrace reached the village." "I haven't come about that," Vikram said, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. "I came about your parents." Her hand stilled. "There's nothing to discuss." "There's everything to discuss. I've spent the day reviewing company records. The subsidiary that built that bridge was acquired in a leveraged buyout. My father cut maintenance budgets across all acquired properties to recoup the investment faster. And people died," Prisha said simply, standing to face him. "Not just my parents. 3 other families lost someone on that bridge." "I know. And nothing happened because my father's legal team buried the evidence and paid off officials." Vikram stepped closer. "But I have it all now. Every document, every falsified inspection, every bribe." Hope and suspicion warred in her eyes. "What are you going to do?" "Whatever you want me to do." "It's not my decision," she said, shaking her head. "It should be. Your family suffered the consequences of my family's greed. You deserve to choose." The response. Prisha looked around at her garden, at the plants that had helped her heal over years of grief and uncertainty. "Justice," she said finally. "Not revenge. Not money. The truth made public, accountability for those responsible, and compensation for all the families, not as charity, but as acknowledgement of wrongdoing." Vikram nodded. "Consider it done. Your father will fight you." "Let him." Vikram's expression was resolute. The Malhotra name should stand for something better than this. They stood in silence as the rain gradually subsided, leaving the garden glistening in emerging sunlight. "What is this place?" Vikram asked eventually, gesturing at the vibrant ecosystem around them. "My sanctuary," Prisha replied. "After my parents died, I came here to stay with my grandmother. I was so angry, so lost. She gave me a packet of seeds and told me to plant something new." A small smile touched her lips. "This garden saved me." "It's incredible," he said, truly seeing it now. The carefully designed layers, the harmonious interactions between species, the subtle human guidance that enhanced natural processes rather than controlling them. "This is what you wanted to create at the hotel, isn't it? Not just a pretty landscape, but a living system." "Yes," she admitted. "The garden project was my chance to show what's possible when we work with nature instead of imposing our will upon it." "You could still create it," Vikram said. "Not at my hotel, but somewhere better. Somewhere it could truly make a difference." He hesitated, then continued. I've been offered a position heading a sustainable development initiative in Europe. I was going to turn it down, stay and fight my father's methods from within. But now I'm thinking perhaps there's another way forward. Prisha studied him curiously. What are you suggesting? A partnership. My business experience and resources, your vision and expertise. We could create healing gardens like this one, for hospitals, schools, communities in need. Spaces that nourish body and spirit. Why would you walk away from your family's empire for gardens? She asked skeptically. Because in the month I've known you, I've felt more purpose than in years of corporate maneuvering, he answered honestly. And because I'm falling in love with you, Prisha Verma. Not your gardening skills or your crisis management abilities, impressive as they are. You, the woman who builds beauty in unlikely places and faces hardship with grace. She stepped back, overwhelmed. We come from different worlds. Worlds that need bridging, he countered. Like this garden bridges the wild and the cultivated, your family would never accept it. My family needs to reckon with their choices as I'm reckoning with mine. He took her hands in his. I'm not asking for an answer now. I'm asking you to consider the possibility. 3 months later, the headlines in Mumbai's business papers announced 2 significant stories. Malhotra Infrastructure's settlement with families affected by the Maharashtra bridge collapse, acknowledging corporate negligence, and Vikram Malhotra's departure from the family business to co-found Ecogenesis, a social enterprise developing therapeutic gardens in underserved communities. The launch event for Ecogenesis took place not in a luxury hotel, but in a formerly abandoned lot in Mumbai that had been transformed into a flourishing community garden. Journalists noted the absence of the elder Malhotras, but the surprising presence of Divya Malhotra, who told reporters simply, "My son has found his path. A mother can want nothing more." As cameras flashed and dignitaries toured the garden, Vikram and Prisha stood slightly apart, watching children from a nearby school excitedly identifying plants they had helped grow. Are you nervous about tomorrow? Vikram asked quietly, referencing their upcoming move to establish their first international project. A little, Prisha admitted. But good nervous, like watching seeds you've planted finally break through the soil. He smiled, squeezing her hand where a simple engagement ring caught the sunlight. Your parents would be proud. So would your younger self, she replied. The one who wanted to build something meaningful before the family business consumed you. Around them, the garden hummed with life. Bees visiting flowers, birds nesting in newly planted trees, people gathering to share in the harvest. It was a different kind of luxury than the Ivory Crown Hotel offered, not exclusive or extravagant, but abundant and accessible to all. Later, as sunset painted the Mumbai sky in brilliant colors, they walked through their creation arm in arm. Prisha paused to adjust a young sapling that had been bent by a child's enthusiastic attention. Sometimes I still can't believe we're here, she confessed, that from all that pain could come something so full of life. That's what you taught me, Vikram said softly. That broken ground is where the strongest roots take hold. In the distance, Prisha could see her grandmother chatting animatedly with a group of elders from the neighborhood, sharing knowledge of traditional plant remedies. Nearby, former hotel staff who had followed them to the new venture, including, surprisingly, Tanvi, who had apologized and asked for a second chance, guided visitors through the garden's design principles. They had created something that transcended the boundaries of their separate worlds, not by erasing their differences, but by honoring the unique perspectives they each brought. Like the companion planting techniques Prisha loved, they had found that diversity created resilience, that mutual support fostered growth, and that sometimes the most unlikely combinations yielded the most abundant harvests. As they moved forward together into the garden's heart, Prisha reflected that love, like cultivation, was not about instant transformation, but patient nurturing, creating conditions where both people could flourish authentically, rooted in truth, and reaching toward shared light. The path ahead would have its challenges, its seasons of dormancy and growth, but they would face them as they had built this garden, together, one mindful step at a time, always believing in the promise contained within each new seed they planted.